what's exciting about fear is that it really does mean we're at a threshold moment. The fear wouldn't be coming up if life was just staying the same every day. Life staying the same every day is kind of like a plateau feeling. It's like, this is comfortable. But the signal of fear is really, really about an exciting opportunity. It's really like knocking on the door, tapping, saying, are you ready to bring your courage too? And when you bring your courage to meet it, then the fear goes away.
You could have given up, but you didn't. You could have stopped believing, but you didn't. You could have kept living their expectations, but you decided to make this life your own. And in turn, you're here. Hello everyone, today we're meeting Kalen Olson. She is a teacher, an artist, a mystic, and a speaker. Hello Kalen, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks so much, Anna, for having me. Glad to be here.
Thank you. So let's start a conversation by diving into your personal journey of becoming the one that you are today. So what inspired you to find your true passion in life?
Yeah, it was definitely more of a quest journey where I had, grown up really loving the outdoors. I really loved being in nature, experiencing art, whether that was putting on plays and, singing, dancing, drawing. And so that was really, the normal for my life. And felt like nothing was missing and every day was magical. And like so many people, I grew up, and as you grow up, sometimes you put some of those things aside and you trade out those things for textbooks and deadlines. And that really was my experience, moving into college and the workforce. And I really noticed that although I was hitting these milestones in my career, that something felt like it was missing. And I thought that was so interesting because I was doing all the quote unquote right things. And so I noticed that it was starting to kind of rub up against something where I was like, I feel like I can't really make decisions from a place of authenticity, and I don't know what decisions to make for myself. And I thought that was really weird because conventional wisdom teaches us, if you go get the job and you go, have this stellar job, that you'll feel fulfilled. And that wasn't the case for me. And so I started to do some digging, looking and researching meditation books, seeing what felt right to me. And as I was on that journey, my dad ended up passing from leukemia while I was in the classroom as a teacher. And what I noticed was that it really broke something open in me. And I was able to be with my feelings and emotions in a new way. And that's really what I was looking for. It just happened to come through unfortunate circumstances. And so I noticed that the deeper I went, the more joy I experienced, and that it really started to awaken in me a profound moment with the present, and that the present moment is really alive. And when we can tap into the present moment, that's where joy lives, that's where intuition lives, that's where synchronicity lives. And so I thought to myself, if I can find this in the classroom in one of the quote unquote most stressful jobs, then why can't anybody experience this? And so I really wanted to share that with as many people as possible, that there is this divine intelligence, there is this moment of awareness that's really available to anybody if you're willing to go there. And so that's really what shaped me into who I am today, and what I love sharing with people and audiences.
Wow. Yeah, it's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And I feel like a lot of people are afraid to face in their feelings and emotions in this present, uh, now tense where like it's very hard for them to accept something, or it's hard for them to process those type of emotion because mostly they are unpleasant, and perhaps they trigger in some kind of experiences from the past, some trauma or something that you were putting off for a long time. And now with perhaps some events that happen in your life or some interactions with people, we trigger that and everything comes to the surface. It was never it's not gonna go away unless you are ready to face it. And with your story, it shows how you were brave enough to really deal with that, to sit with that emotion, to feel it all the way through. And you found the other side of it, which is joy, peace, fulfillment. And how do you think people can really deal with that? Because it brings a lot of anxiety and depression, and nowadays a lot of people struggling with that. They taking a lot of medication to just keep themselves numb in a way. They just not ready to deal with that. But don't you think that processing those emotions will set you free in a way?
Yeah, absolutely. That was definitely my experience, and I hadn't done it before. And so what's interesting is I think there's a really interesting relationship between fear and grief that we
Mm,
don't really dive into enough. And that our relationship, fear is not the problem, actually, is what I came to
mm,
realize, that fear is not the problem, it's our relationship with fear. And when we can look at our relationship with fear, that's when we can experience the transformation. Because for many of us, myself included, I wasn't willing to look at the fear. And so
mm,
the shiny distractions of achievements were very enticing until they weren't. And so my biggest fear when I look back was really losing a loved one, really losing someone close to me, and especially a parent. That was
mm,
my biggest fear at the time. And I knew that, as I was younger, but when we can look at our fear, then we can actually be with the grief. And so, because I experienced that experience, it allowed me to also experience grief. And so, the relationship between fear really led to the relationship with grief. And so, grief then becomes a process of reclamation and healing and depth. And what's interesting about those two relationships that I found is, like, I started doing that work of feeling my feelings, of doing the healing work. And what I came to realize is that, like, you don't have to lose someone you love or lose the thing to meet your fear. You don't have to lose the thing in your reality to really go through the depths of transformation, which I equate to grief. And so what I started noticing is, like, people can have a relationship with grief as a gateway to transformation and a relationship to fear, and not necessarily need to lose that thing they're worried of losing. And so
mm,
that's what's so deeply profound, is, like, we don't have to go through, we all go through challenges, absolutely,
mm.
but we don't have to necessarily have these big gateway moments. We can be with our grief and our fear in our everyday life as gateways and portals to transformation. That's really available to everyone. You don't have to wait for a tragic life circumstance to experience that as a catapulting moment on the threshold of your becoming. So a lot of people who are feeling anxiety or depression, like, those are gateway moments. Those can be moments where you're on the edge of something, and to see it as that, as,
Mm.
like, this could be a powerful threshold moment. And that, like, it's in not facing the fear that those moments of anxiety and depression continue. But once we face the fear head on, then we have a path of reclamation and a new path that can unfold.
Yeah, I think you just mentioned that we have to really embrace that fear, face it, and not be scared of it, just to understand that this is a gateway to reclamation or to the other side, to start embracing that and not showing any way of like resentment, right? And not hiding from it. So if you just ready to accept and establish different relationship with fear, so then you can easily go through that gateway and see what is it and hold for you on the other side of it. And also, I feel like we have to become more aware to bring ourselves to this present moment, because again, there are different distractions in our life, substances, TV, social media, you name it, right? And usually the tendency is to go into that certain distraction that worked for us in the past and to avoid. But we have to really show ourselves love and compassion and hold that safe space for us to meet that fear and to not be scared and to allow ourselves to feel and heal.
Yeah. And when we don't look at the fear, that's when things can really overwhelm us. But like, what's exciting about fear is that it really does mean we're at a threshold moment. The fear
Mm,
wouldn't be coming up if life was just staying the same every day. Life
yeah.
staying the same every day is kind of like a plateau feeling. It's like, this is comfortable. But
Yeah.
the signal of fear is really, really about an exciting opportunity. That's like, it's really like knocking on the door, tapping, saying, are you ready to bring your courage too? And when
Mm,
you bring your courage to meet it, then the fear goes away. It doesn't mean that there isn't courageous action. I think sometimes we think that intuition is like a light, pink, fluffy cloud, and we're going to be wrapped in this
yeah.
softness every day. And that was my experience in the beginning, but it's not really my experience now. Is that like every
Mm,
time I'm on the threshold of my next becoming, okay, the fear shows up. That means I'm on the edge of transformation. So I think there can become more of an exciting dialogue with fear than maybe we've had in the past. And when we can look at it that way, that like, oh, this is actually an invitation. Cool. Like, what's next?
right. Definitely. And also, um, I know you work with people to help them transform, and there is something that you call a Venus call. I just want you to elaborate more on how this incorporates in that transformation and what is the work behind the scenes that you do with people.
Yeah. So I was fortunate enough to sit in a lot of ceremony. I worked with Sarah Jenks, who's an ordained priestess. I've worked with other teachers, spiritual teachers, in the realms of self realization and enlightenment. And they all really taught me that transformation's an ongoing thing. And it's not like we get these little moments of joy or aha that like if we're really ready, it's really about a threshold moment. And so really what I'm doing with people is I am holding that field of the threshold for them so that they can really cross over. Because I think sometimes we do a dance with our intuition, or we're like, I
Mm,
kind of want to transform, but I'm not really ready to go to the other side. And so what I want to hold with people is that threshold moment for them to like really cross over and hold that space. And so that was the culmination of a lot of my deep work of feeling the feelings of, releasing patternings of coming back to that place of stillness so that people can really find that in themselves and really magnify that in their lives. Because at the heart of it, manifestation is really about love. It's not like, or creating the life you love is, it's not really about the shiny things and trying to acquire a bunch of shiny things to fill a hole. It's really that we're learning how to deeply and profoundly love ourselves, all of the parts of ourselves. And when we do that, we become a new identity, and our life is a reflection of that like newness of who we really are. And then making those decisions from that different kind of a place is so completely new, instead of trying to hold on to an old identity and have these
mm,
little quick wins. It's so much more deeply profound than that. And I think that's what people are really looking for. It's like really wanting something of depth. And I can just see that a lot, that like we're kind of done with the quick fixes, and it's like let's go somewhere with depth. So that's what really excites me. And the name Venus Code really has to do with sacred feminine,
mm,
and the sacred feminine is really about just going and being with your body, really going and being with the signals that are there for you. And that everyone has this divine intelligence that's lying dormant in them, whether from previous lifetimes, this lifetime. And it's really about unlocking that as the wisdom and our connection with the earth and how we can feel really connected to something bigger than ourselves in this lifetime. And that's what really excites me.
Wow, yes, and like you said, everything that we have is within ourselves. And first, it has to be a desire and willingness to go through transformation, to be ready for change. I feel like not everybody is ready, and they still, not seeing the lesson perhaps that's coming up for them, the patterns that they're engaged in. And first step would be to become aware and see for yourself what's happening in your life, and then to make a decision to move forward and to change. And I feel like um, change is also hard for people to follow through with, because you have to be committed to it. It's not just you saying I want, but really like how you show up for yourself every single day, and what changed in your life in terms of actions. How are you behaving differently in a way that shows the change within yourself. So you have to like integrate it and start living as a different person, don't you think?
Yeah, you hit the nail right on the head. It's like it really is about being a different person. It's not like yes, we can make little different choices, but it's about feeling like you're a different person and
Mm-hmm.
deciding to feel that future self now. And what would that future self be doing now? How would that future self be feeling? How would that future self even be dressing? These are like exciting questions.
Definitely. And I feel like we have this ability to shift in a way, like shift our reality to mold it in the way that we want it to look like. And it's all our capacity to do it, because not everybody really believes that they can, right? So they
Mhm.
expecting somebody to come save them, or something happen outside of them, or they saying, uh, this is the reality I live in, right? How can I change it? But everything starts within. So first you have to change your inner world and how you relate to it and how you see yourself, what you believe in. And then it will reflect as a confirmation in outside world. And this is how I understand. And if you can just elaborate more on how this connection between in and outer world really manifests in a way, and what can we do to facilitate that?
Yeah, the inner, like our inner emotions, and then the outer world are a direct mirror. They're the exact same thing. And
Mhm.
so what's cool about that is we can get lots of feedback from our outer world. What's this outer world telling me right now is true? And really deciding if we want that to be the truth. And if we don't, then there is an opportunity to shift and ask for help of like, okay, then what is a better frame of story here? But what's also cool too is like oftentimes that imagery in the outer world can bring up sensations of fear. And so it doesn't mean that that's the final story, but it does mean that like we can come back and say, is this part of the old evolution or is this part of the new evolution? And so when we're children, I think so many of us are used to that transformation and that change. We're used to more magical thinking as a child. It's just like part of our imprint. And so we're used to going and trying a new sport when you were younger. We're used to going and trying a new hobby and seeing that like really manifest, right? So we're
Right.
used to trying on all these different identities as a child. And so what happens is because through repetition of doing something as an adult, we can oftentimes forget that like that's you, like as a child that's still like in you. And so what if you brought back that playfulness of looking at your life in a different way? It's really a muscle to be used. It's not that you lost the magic. And so I think that's a great
Mm.
way for people to reconnect to that wisdom, is to really remember how they used to do that, and that through that through the journaling, through the feelings of the feelings, through question the reality, they can come back to that creative identity play to really create that life as an adult.
Yeah, and also, I feel like we don't have to attach ourselves to the roles that we play in this society that we live in, right? All
Yeah.
of us play different roles, being a mother, sister, daughter, and also a teacher, pharmacist, whoever. But also, a lot of people attach themselves so strongly and they believe this is who I am, and I've been this person all this time, and this is who I'm gonna be for the rest of my life. But you don't have to. You can change your story at any point of time. If you choose so, again, it's free will. It's your choice to either continue doing the same or change and become somebody you want to be and what you want to do. It's like you have to be more flexible, more fluid. And like you said, this playfulness and curiosity that we bring from childhood helps us to really discover our true purpose or passion so we can step into that more powerful way of being who we are truly, and bringing our service to other people, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It is. And I love what you said that like we aren't our roles. And if we're attaching so much to our roles and what those look like it's this fixed identity. There's no room to breathe and grow, in our becoming. And it's like really what it's about is our becoming. It's this presence in our lives that's going to keep shifting up and keep growing like we were used to when we were kids. And so then it becomes less about the right thing, the right role, how am I doing this? It's
Hmm.
more about like this energy of vastness that you keep reiterating. And then perhaps the outer roles shift or the outer roles change and
Right.
how you approach them changes. And then, like you said, it's like then you get more flexibility in it as well and the permission to create like you did when you were a child.
Definitely. And that also gives you more freedom, and you don't have to like judge yourself or put yourself down. Like, give yourself that space to create. You are the creator. And knowing all of the tools available to you, I feel like we will be more um, artists, creators, and making that piece of art as our life in the way that we want to see it. And again, we don't need to have permission from other people, even if everybody against that, but you feel intuitively within yourself, but this is what you love, this is who you are. You just need to act on that and see how it unfolds for you. Because also we don't know the full plan. Like, we know the next step and the next step, right? If we can just trust the process and go full in and see how it unfolds, and we have all the resources, people, help come into our life, and again, everything is like orchestrated for our benefit.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think there's something that comes into mind as we get older where we're like, oh, I can't try this because XYZ might happen, right? Whereas when we
Mm,
were younger, we might have been more comfortable making mistakes. And so that's something I've had to learn as an adult is like that the mistakes are really welcome by the universe. And
yeah,
that even if it feels scary to take that step, that to just try it and really to have faith that like to go through the worst case scenarios of what really might happen and to be with those and really ask, is that part of my old identity or is that part of my new identity that I'm growing
mm,
into? And what would that new identity say about this next step? And sometimes and then oftentimes that can help us reframe the next step we're taking to come at it from a place of courage that like we are adults, we can still make mistakes
yeah.
and we can still take messy action, and that's like really part of the fun of playing. So I think a lot of people, again myself included, I had to learn this, is like really making mistakes is part of it. It's a really big part of it that we often overlook. And you don't have to be perfect as an adult. It's just such a fallacy.
Definitely. And I feel like we have to really embrace the unknown and go out of that comfort zone, because that's where really we learn, and that's where we can grow into more stronger version of who we are, and not being afraid, because again, uh, fear comes of the unknown usually.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that we start from the beginning, we didn't know. But once we discovered that, now we're no longer scared of that. So any type of process, it's the same. It's just the beginning, and we just need to be more compassionate with ourselves, and give ourselves time, but still knowing that it's part of the process, and be willing to try, be willing to stretch yourself out of that comfort zone and see what lays beyond that. And a lot of times we discover something that, we didn't even expect.
Yeah.
It's just like, feel there's always a connection to that higher mind or higher intelligence, and it knows what you need,
Mm-hmm.
right? So sometimes we mix things up. There is something that we want, and there's something that we need, and that higher version of you, right, that you are becoming, it usually knows what you need in order to become that. And all of that will come to your life, and you just need to be ready to go through those processes in order to see yourself becoming that.
Mm-hmm. And it's like on the hero's journey, it's like you get everything you need.
Mm,
Heroine's journey, you get everything you need. And that includes like even the people who challenge you,
yeah.
because what's happening, I found, is that like I needed to have a thicker skin. I needed to believe in myself more. And so the blessings of support, of the networking, or of, the money coming in unexpected places, these are all part of the journey.
Mm,
And the people who come up and challenge us are also like a really rich, delicious part of the journey for us to really validate in ourselves, am I sticking with it, or am I listening and people pleasing to people around me, and can I really come back to a strong sense of self-love, that like me loving myself is enough. And then we give people, time to catch up with us on the journey too. Some people are getting used to a new identity in us, and it doesn't mean we have to cut people out of our lives. Sometimes it's just like giving patience while they catch up to your new version.
yeah, definitely. And also, yeah, a lot of times I feel like we are the ones that's most critical to ourselves. We are the most judging ourselves, and we don't usually do it to, let's say, a child, right? We will hold that space for a child if child is in distress. But when we are in distress, we can, really put ourselves down even more and start being more like demanding of expectation that we put, which is usually like something that imaginary, and it's not something that we're supposed to be doing. But at the same time, we need to kind of recognize the way we speak to ourselves on a daily basis, and that's important, because the love starts within yourself first in order for you to then interact with others with the same love and compassion, to see them as a reflection of the divine, the same as you are. So we're all connected, right? But again, we have to show ourselves more love. And I feel like it's something that is missing with a lot of people. So, what would be your advice? Like, how can you bring more love into your life, and what could help with the awareness? Perhaps some kind of practices that you have in your routine, or you advise people that you work with that will be of benefit.
Yeah. Oh my God, what you said is so beautiful. It's just so lovely. And it's like, yeah, that's it. And I think, on the journey of becoming, on the journey of our next level selves, we come up against these parts that like maybe we want to fix or get rid of or change. And what's interesting about the journey of becoming is that those parts of us that we may want to fix or change are actually not meant to be gotten rid of. And what I found is that those pieces in us that feel edgy or uncomfortable, we're like, oh, this thing in me, oh, what is it
Mm-hmm.
here? They, the reason they're so loud is because they're being asked to be accepted and they're being asked to just be seen without any sort of story. And so
Yeah.
if we can be with those pieces in our meditation to really visualize bringing our awareness to them and just sitting with them, not trying to change them or fix them or even transform them, but just witnessing them and seeing them. And so when we do that, they can start softening and maybe expressing themselves in a different way, because often they can be layered. So it's like we're kind of untangling, we're kind of unlayering to really see what's there. And it's like, oh, oftentimes I notice they just really want to be seen. And so once something is seen, it's like, yes, we can move on to with the next stage of the journey. It's like when we're kids, you know, maybe like I used to love playing with Barbies and I used to
Mm-hmm.
love doing all of these things, but they couldn't come with me in the next stage of my journey, could they? It's like they were perfect for that stage. And so if we can create more moments, ceremonies, rituals, meditation where we just like really honor those older parts because perhaps they served us at one point in our journey. Perhaps they were created from a defense mechanism that kept us safe. And so when we just honor that they were there for a time, they served a they served a place in our lives. And so they don't need to be shamed or reframed, just witnessed and seen lovingly as that chapter. And we're ready to graduate into our next version of whatever pieces are ready to come on the next stage of our journey.
Yes, definitely. And like you said, we don't have to shame ourselves or feeling this type of regret or resentment towards something that happened, let's say in the past, right? But rather see it and just see it for what it is, to be compassionate and have a safe space for it to be seen, to be heard. And I feel like the more awareness comes into those parts of us, of those dark places that we don't want to go to, if we illuminate that, and it's just integrates more into our wholeness as who we are, and it just becomes more at peace, and then it no longer uh, knocking on the door and coming as different type of emotions. So all we need is just be aware of that and give our attention when it requires our attention. So that's something we just need to be mindful of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, beautiful. Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad we have this conversation. For those who would like to connect with you online, how can they find you?
Yeah, people can reach me at www.kalenolson.com, spelled Kalen Olson, Olson. And then I am also most active on Instagram with the same handle, Kalen Olson.
Great. I'm going to include that in the show notes as well. And as we close today, what would be the final thought for our listeners?
Yeah, the final thought would be maybe you're just on the edge of your becoming. Maybe all the feelings, if you're feeling stirring, swirling, to invite it and welcome a new story about how you interact and engage with it. And perhaps you're ready to embark on a grand adventure.
Thank you. And thank you for sharing your thoughts and wisdom. And I hope you enjoy your day.
Thank you so much, Anna. Likewise.
I hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, hit the subscribe button and share it with others. Stay tuned!